Welcome back to another episode of Cali Talks, where your host G turns everyday stories into extraordinary adventures. From the funny to the deeply inspiring, G's got California covered. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cali Talks, and today I'm with a great and a very special guest, and we're going to be going through what Hollywood is going on right now, and we're going to be talking from the perspective of an actor in Hollywood. We're going to be talking about his life, we're going to be talking about his journey from Iowa and all the way to LA, and how he has been able to stay afloat, make a living, and not lose his sanity over Hollywood. So welcome back, Derrick VanDerMillen, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Welcome for coming to the show. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time, mostly knowing that you took the drive from here.
Yeah. The drive from here to LA was pretty crazy, but made it out. It wasn't too Mad Max. It was good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming in. Let's just I want to start with a little bit of what we talk behind scenes about your family and how I'm curious of how you started as an actor.
Yeah, the starting out as an actor was just, there's nothing to do in Iowa. There's like nothing to do. It's just like cornfield, and yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of the jokes. Like somebody's like, "Oh, I'm coming from Iowa," or they give the state, which is Idaho.
Yeah,
and they're like,
get it mixed up all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and they always refer either to potatoes or to corn or some. So how is?
Yeah, so
coming from that?
There is not a lot to do, and so some people get in trouble. And other people become theater kids like me. And I think it was truly like an act of God that like, it's like, okay, if this kid needs something to do, let's guide him towards theater. And the community theater that I had next door to where I grew up was huge. It was like previously like a big professional theater that they made a community theater. And like where it is now and where it was when I started out, it was pretty big when I started out. But it's huge now, and
so it increased its size throughout the year
massively. And so I was a part of sort of the upswell of everything that was going on with that theater.
So you would consider that you were part of like the beginnings of the theater.
Yeah, just like cool stuff that was happening. But there was cool stuff that predated me. But it was a place that I could go to where
you felt safe, and that
I felt safe. I felt like it was a real creative outlet, and honestly, like. All the attention I was kind of seeking in like the classroom, that they're like, no, you can't do this. Like a switch flipped, and all the teachers were like, I think he needs to go do this, because they would scold me, but then I'd make them laugh. So they'd be like, I mean, this kid is not a bad kid, but he's something. Like, they're like, he's a menace in the class. Like, we got to get him to just chill out and like find the right.
What can we do to get this guy to cool off and chill out? Because you were that kid there, you're like nice and good kid, but at the same time you have that little menace right behind.
My parents love to tell me that the report card does not listen to and follow directions all the time. No. Ironically, directors love me because I listen to what they have to say. So
that's great.
Your like weakness becomes something that's like a professional like strength. Yeah.
And so nowadays, just jumping a little bit political, like this state swings back and forth from red to hot red to blues here and there. So you mentioned about your family growing into a family partially from mainly blue.
Yeah.
So how was that into your integration to arts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you guys were asking me about politics and like it's such a thing that people are like, how do we like navigate?
I mean, people are iffy today. Yeah, but nowadays they're iffy about politics.
And I think Iowa is just like such a great state. And really, I think what Iowa exposed to me was that a lot of states are this way. We just forget. Like California, you're in LA, sure. Drive about 40 minutes outside of LA. You're in red. You're in like Republican.
It switches really fast.
Most states are like that, but I think some states hold that to them and some don't. Some are kind of like at odds with that. And so Iowa, it's like you will for sure be going to Thanksgiving with someone that's on the opposite end of the political spectrum from you. And it's not you have to hold the peace and it's begrudging. It's like, I have this uncle who's conservative, and he's always conservative.
Big time
and that's not going to change. And one of my parents is going to say something that kind of sets him off. that then they get set off, and like that for sure happens, but you don't lose perspective on it. And so I think for me, it's like right now you're asking me right before the election when things could be the most tense. I think a lot of actors would probably be like, you know what, I just to play it safe, I don't really feel like talking about that. To me, it's like you're going to work with people that feel differently. And like anyone who's liberal, if you think you're going to escape working with conservatives in Hollywood, that's not happening. Yeah. And the same is true.
We're all mixing the same.
If you're conservative and you're thinking you're not going to work with like liberals, that's even more insane.
And it's interesting to see because like you see actors and a lot of other people that are Republican, and then at the same time you see producers that are like the head of the operation and make things happening that are Republican, that are red. So how
they could be super liberal or they could be conservative. You never know.
It's an industry that you never know who you're going to encounter, what their beliefs are, what they support. So how is this for you?
But that's why I've always loved. I think that's really what I loved about being on a film set, because on the day when the film is getting made, none of that shit matters.
Nothing.
None of it.
Nothing matters.
If you are squabbling about petty shit like politics while making a thing, that thing doesn't get made. Someone's getting pissed, and you don't have your
everything goes to shambles.
So I love the forced nature of a set to make people get along, and almost like if there was a way in which the country could
do the same,
almost tie their hands in a way where it's like you have to get along with the other side or else this thing just doesn't work. I would love that.
Well, I mean, that's partially the reason why I also love film is because like doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how you look. You can be black, you can be white, you can be Latino, you can be whoever, pardon the language, whoever the fuck you want to be, and everybody respects you, everybody loves you, everybody cares about you, because at the end of the day, this is something that we're losing, and I think you may agree with me on this, is that nowadays, big studios, they're worrying too much about the penny for the pocket. So they care too much about the money, and they letting go of the real reason of film, which is the art, telling stories. Because with film, there's so many things that we can do. Like you have anything going on in the world, and you have this massive masterpiece of tool that you can use to expose either big problems around the world, or you can convey a beautiful story that happened years ago, or you can get really creative and so make something new. So to have this tool and just be worrying about money, how has this been affecting your life?
Yeah, how has it affected me? I think that
how do you lose your mind over it? Do you lose sleep over that?
It's not something that I lose sleep over. I think mainly because all of the things that really grab our attention and make us fear about the market, they grab our attention in the moment, but if you can get enough space to just go, okay, in the 50s they were dealing with the communist scare. Right? We've always been dealing with something. And at the end of the day, they built some space enough to go, I don't know if it makes sense, but I have to be a person of action and decide to do this. And so I think more and more people are going, we have the capacity to make good things. Yes, it would be nice if it could be seen in theaters, but I'll make this thing, I'll show somebody, and my project graduates into something bigger. So, there's so much political strife going on in other parts of the world. We're privileged right now. We're sat here talking to one another. And while I think sometimes people feel like they have to say, like, we're privileged, they have to get it out there, there's something incredibly grounding right now about you and I here. We're just talking. We hear the hums of the fans nearby. There's people in Ukraine that's not what they're hearing at all. And
they're living a total different reality.
A very different life. And
funny enough, we've had not too long ago a set of a pair of Ukrainians. They were here. We got so much emotion because I come from a third world country. I come from Colombia. This is a country that has been 9 decades in war because of narco traffickers and all this shit. And when we connected into a point where our families brought us to the point of where like I feel you and you feel me on this, to the point I cried, and and so she cried as well, because we coming from a reality where, at least in Colombia, our reality is so harsh. It's a harsh reality where we had to push ourselves to make jokes about the bad stuff that happens every day in order to just live through what is going on in the country. So to hear you say that we are privileged, I feel privileged living in the States right now, regardless of whether Kamala is going to win, whether Trump is going to win. At this point, who cares? Like, just see the overall picture. Yes, there are so many things going on in Iran. There are so many things going on in Ukraine. But right now, we in Gaza, we're safe in a way. We still have some sort of freedom. We still have some sort of safety that I think a lot of people do not see.
Yeah, they take it for granted. And I think what hurts me, it hurts me as a liberal, and I do identify as that. You guys asked me about that, and it's funny because it isn't until people start asking you, like, you know, what are you? And, like, why it hurts me is because I'm seeing, you know, a lot of people that want to see progress, and they want to see it happen under the banner of being liberal. And I have seen it shift, sure, to where there are people that are, you know, attacking for their beliefs. I see it on the conservative side. And so that's why I'm able to take a breath and go, all right, both of us, a conservative who I'm seeing, and I see them, I see that they understand everything that's going on. And they're like, this is a shit show.
Yeah.
But we see each other as someone who's looking at the opposite ends of the spectrum going crazy. And so for me, it's like, what I just wish I could get more liberals to understand is, like, there is strife in the world. There's bad things. I'm in a position of privilege. And yes, I would like to do something about it, but we can't thrust ourselves into just trying to do something and not knowing what we're trying to do, or just because we feel bad inside. It's like, hey, you have a good thing here. Be good to your community. Be good to your family. Start from the core and really just work out, because that's probably going to be the thing that doesn't collapse. If you just start from, like, have I checked in on myself and how I'm doing today to not be an asshole on the road?
Yeah.
In LA, I've done things like throw a soda cup out of my window at somebody that did something to me, who did something way worse than throw soda at me, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I made 2 assholes on the road.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
They were going to be, sure, and I had to deal with it. But I made the number double.
Yeah.
So you start with yourself first, then you check in on your family. You check in, I live in an apartment building. Is the apartment building doing okay? Somebody, like, kind of made a mess of the laundry room. Like just try and make it grow outward.
Yeah.
Versus jumping all the way across the pond to a country you're not really informed about. You haven't really talked to the people of.
Yeah. It's not really your forte.
It's not your forte, which you can grow.
You can always learn.
Grow, you can push yourself. You can try to educate yourself. But
don't put yourself in such
positions. Where's your gut telling you?
Yeah.
Right now, what's going on in Gaza, my gut is telling me, like, this is such a mess that for once it would be nice to see, like, America just be like, how can we help? If you guys have, if something's not being settled here, do we want to be the referee? Because it sure sounds like the rest of the world is sick of us being the referee.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, where are my Palestinian American friends and countrymen and women? Do they feel safe here? Where are my Jewish friends and countrymen and women? Do they feel safe here? Am I doing enough for them here? Does that label even mean anything?
You ask yourself, like, am I doing enough to make them feel safe?
Yeah, my best friend is of Jewish descent. It doesn't mean anything to him. And there's so many that feel the same way. And to, like, just like, I'm going to fly a banner for something I don't quite get. Like, I think it's just like, you're a person with your own instincts. where do you feel like you're needed? If it's calling you there, sure, but don't pick up a cause
And
just
because. Yeah.
And so for me, like the arts, like I'm watching so many actors go for it, and they're really trying. And there's so many people in LA that are really ready to make a quick buck off of how much they want it. And so for me, like I could get.
So what would you say that it sets you apart from those that want to do a quick buck?
I would like to set somebody up for a role or um, a script or getting on production one that I have nothing to do with, that it's clear like I have no actual investment, I just did an alley-oop, here you go, rather than going with this person that like clearly just wants your money. Like, listen to me for a sec, this is not going to be glamorous work, but I can get you something with somebody that I know is not taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
You know? But so many people are like, I don't know, their operation looks pretty slick. You know? And
So
you're
they
just like,
get driven because
Yeah.
of all the like first
Yeah.
layer of beauty, and then when
Yeah.
they get in there, they're like, oh shit, this
Yeah.
is a shit hole.
Yeah.
So
So
like, I want out.
and I think there's times where like a setting like this at this scale, at a bigger scale, right? Where we act like we've seen actors be actors and we get what that
Yeah.
is. So many people, so many actors do not actually let you in on how hard it is.
I mean,
Especially before they make it,
Yeah.
because then it looks like you don't actually have your shit in order. If you're like, hey guys, really, I'm a mess under here. They're like, oh, maybe you'll be a mess on set, and I don't know
Yeah.
if I want you to. And it's like,
they don't share much because of the risk that they
yeah.
could represent.
And I would like it to just be normal to be like, hey, I am a human like everyone else. Today, I don't really have my shit together. I can pull it together. It's not going to affect my work, but I'd like to not have to like act like
like put a
everything's
facade.
okay. Yeah.
Like to put a facade just to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Of what?
Yeah, and every performer
Something
that I
happened.
know, every director, like usually the way they can convey it is with humor.
Yeah.
So like kind of like how you mentioned, like they might make a joke, and it's like it's a way to just get it out there. Now back to what we were doing, type of thing. So, yeah. So, but I like for me a type of cause. I just feel like because of how personal my struggle is with acting, there's a lot of them that are not voicing how difficult. it
So
is.
what's the most struggle you have as far as acting right now?
The current market is a question mark across the board.
For everybody.
There's so many people that they're like, I'm funny, I should jump on social media. I'm dramatic, I should do theater, I should do film, but
Or I'm funny, I want to be a comic.
yeah, or do stand up.
Mhm.
And so some people are making a name for themselves online through social media and things like that. But I think they get that they're sort of beholden to these tech companies. The studios are like, do we have the power that we did? I think that they do. I think they for sure have the power. I just think they shouldn't flood the zone with so many movies. I think they should just like focus on getting people back to movie theaters. Like,
Well, I mean, we're talking. I mean, this
Yeah.
is something that happened 2020. I mean,
Yeah.
ending of 2019.
yeah,
If people started being scared,
Yeah.
afraid of going to movie theaters because the media, the politicians, they made COVID such a big thing. I'm not taking any credit away from COVID. Of course, I've had family members that died or in
just
suffered
talking about it
COVID.
as an event, it was big.
But as
no
an
matter
event, it
how
was
you-
big,
yeah.
where to a point that it changed a whole industry
Yeah.
that has been put into
Yeah.
place for decades over this country. This country is, it's known aside from other things, it's known
Yeah.
for the culture of art, and most specifically film.
Yeah.
A lot of film history has taken place in this country, and a thing like COVID hit a couple of years ago, and then everything goes to shambles. People stop going to the theaters, and yet here we are, 2024, and still people are afraid of going to movie theaters.
Yeah, I think the tech side, they look at it and go like, we have to sort of retrain the public to go to the movie theater, and that's like a kind of cold way to describe what needs to happen, which is just like, I can remember because I worked at a movie theater. That was one of the first jobs that I had growing up. I can remember, like, my general manager was like, "What's the deal? What's gonna get people here?" And there was like a real like,
What's gonna thrive on
how do
here?
we get a culture of like people coming here? Even if it's like you go back to Iowa for sure, and I think actually even go to Burbank here. I think it's Mondays
Yes.
in Burbank is like where I think it's Mondays. It might be Tuesdays, but you go to like the AMC in Burbank and like that's like half ticket price and it's packed.
It's full.
So I don't buy that people don't want to go to the movies. I think that we just haven't gotten to the point where we touch back in on how do we make the movies worth it for people.
And I also feel that streaming platforms have are a little bit at fault for this. They made it too affordable, too easy to get for people to watch the newest movies.
Yeah.
And streaming platforms. It's now people want that comfort
Yeah.
of like, you know what? Number one, I don't want to spend money on that. They don't see it as a priority. Before, people wanted to spend money on film because they're like, it feels like an investment of seeing somebody's work of art.
Yeah.
It felt as an investment. I want to see art. I want to see how it's made. I want to see what this is all about. You know, like seeing the big screen, the film strip, how they did it. But I think that now, like, film studios are also at fault for allowing the streamers take such a massive control over the industry and handing over to the customer or the consumer, like, here you go.
Yeah.
This is the latest Joker. Here's the latest La La Land. Or, there you go. Boom, take it, watch it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, yeah, we need to get the theaters back. That's where the art takes place.
There was an analogy that sometimes I've heard about, which I always think is interesting, that the studios sort of function as like the five families of the mafia, in that they had to figure out how to do business together in a way that it was good for everybody, you know? And I think that I don't have faith that the tech companies will do the same, because their whole MO is we can collect the data for ourselves and hang on to it, and we don't need to share it. And we just got to hold out until Paramount Plus fails, until Disney Plus like plummets to number 4. Maybe doesn't fail, but is like no longer our top competitor. Whoever's on top, Netflix like just nosedives, and now it is Disney. I don't think they're going to do that, and I think they have to realize it is in their best interest to have a standardized way for this particular business of filmmaking to know not your internal numbers, everyone's numbers of who's the biggest star, who did the best, what creative team marginally spends the least and makes the most. Not your numbers, everyone. So everyone knows there's competition again. Everyone knows their value, and I think that's something we need to go back to. But this sort of like, we're gonna hide the numbers from the people we want to do business with. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and how is that gonna work? Like, you need to know where your rounds are standing, in order to make further decisions on what to do.
So to circle back to kind of your original line of questioning, I think tech has done what tech does, which is squeeze the product as hard as it can till it's the slimmest it can be, the most efficient it can be before breaking down. And now it needs to let go of the chokehold and understand that this is one of the most human businesses you're going to find on planet Earth right now. A village of people making a product about human beings for a human audience. It's as human as it gets. And if you can't take care of the people that are making it and a little bit more the people that are going to see the movies, get out.
Where's the business going to end?
Because there will be someone who's insane enough to do that, and they might fail in the beginning.
But at some point,
is what it's going to take. And instead of people being like, cool, Bob Iger, you told all of us when we were on strike, all we have to do is wait until the fall when people can't pay rent and they'll come back to the table. The second you get somebody who's like, we're going to fight for the consumer and for the people making the films and find the equilibrium. And even if that comes a little bit at our expense, but we're here and you guys actually believe that, that's where we need to get to. But if it's just going to be cold CEOs.
Well, I mean, we can see. I would much rather deal with the Hollywood from the 50s when all of these big shot producers like Albert Erzrati, the producer of The Godfather, the studio director of Paramount, all these people, even though that yet the industry was still not as its peak, but it was rising, I would much rather deal with the Hollywood from then than from the Hollywood we have now, because it's turned into such a cold-blooded industrial industry that at this point I don't even recognize Hollywood. I'm like, I've asked myself, I'm like, where's the art? Where's the storytelling? Where's the true meaning of filmmaking? Where's that all left off? Was it shoved under the rug?
No. It still exists. It's just flooded with a bunch of other content, which is partly why I think the sea of content we have on our phones.
So I'm assuming that you may be a bit against of like the whole social media ban.
No, I just
as an actor.
You said ban?
Like bang, like this huge bang of the social
bang
media.
It's not that I'm against it. It's that I'm somebody who really, I don't like to go the obvious route.
Okay.
And right now, social media feels obvious. In a way that a lot of people are like, right, that's the point, and that's how we're making money and building ourselves into brands and things like that. However, in this profession of being an actor, yeah, I could brand myself as somebody that you're seeing all the time, making content myself. It's not why I got into this. That was not the spark.
So how
that I felt that started me on this journey. When COVID happened, and I was like, I got nothing to do. Let's make content.
Okay.
And that exposed to me that even if you're on a slim set of just a few people, I'm in it for the village. I'm in it for
you're in there
role.
For the people, and for your own thing, and
Yeah.
for your passion.
Like acting started because of theater companies. We now have production companies for film. If we scale back to just sure, maybe a couple of your buddies and you making content, you're happy. I'm not yucking anyone's yum. If you're for that, that's totally cool.
Like you do your thing.
I just live for, the fact that there's hair and makeup and they're so skilled at what they do. And I'm dating one of them and she's great at what she does. And I love hearing her talk about makeup. Then you go one department over and there's someone who is in love with fashion. And I go in there and I feel like such a schlub. And without makeup or anything, they make me look like $1 million. Just all these people that are really good at what they do and they're working towards one thing. Even if it's a dud, even if 10 years from the road, you're talking to me, and you've clipped out me being like, yeah, and I was in this piece of shit movie, and we bring up whatever is the widely regarded piece of shit movie that I was a part of. What a luxury that I got to be a part of just a dud.
So how it is for you to market yourself as an actor? Because as an actor, number one is hard. Because I'm not an actor myself, but I had the blessing and the opportunity to right along with with Camilo Jimenez Barron. He had the antagonist role in Griselda, which they're nominated for the Emmy.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that I got to ride along with him through the journey of self-taping and casting for this thing. I got to see how hard it can be on an actor. So how do you market yourself nowadays? We'll touch back on all the projects you did, because I know you came today to here after you did self-tapes and an in-person casting. So I'll touch on back on that a little bit, but how do you market yourself as an actor?
Well, this right here, this platform is such an interesting thing, because to be honest with you, I think a lot of people, would say, because maybe they have some people they know are acting in their life, they're like, oh, I'm like interested about like what their journey is, but there is a little bit of people don't care. They don't care to hear about that journey, because I think there's a lot of actors that are focused on fame, and they're throwing in everyone's faces, look how good I am.
So what are you
And
looking for as an actor if you're not looking for the fame?
This is
If you're
what
not
it's
looking just for the
always
fame.
been since I was a kid. So what put me on wanting to be
This
an
is
actor?
what I'm curious. 'Cause
Yeah.
this has come like years
Yeah.
ago.
So what put me on acting was the mixture of having nothing to do in Iowa.
Number one.
Number one. But when I saw Aladdin, I saw the genie, I saw animation, I was drawn in by it, right? And I was just like, wow, this character, the genie, is awesome, and I love it. And at first, my first thing I said I wanted to be was a fly girl from In Living Color, because they're just like dancing around and everything. I was like, I want to be that when I grow up. It wasn't astronaut. It wasn't anything like that. It was a fly girl. I wanted to be a fly girl. And my mom and dad were like, okay.
You're like,
that's not what we thought was going to be
like,
first. Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
they were shocked.
What J-Lo was doing, I want to be doing that. So that was my first. And then it was, I want to be the genie. And so my parents had to have this like conversation about me about the abstractness of you can't actually be a genie.
You wanted to be the genie of the bottle
Right.
that you can just
and just like make people's wishes come
everything
true.
come through.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom.
But then they told me who Robin Williams was, and then I started to watch Robin Williams movies, and I can't think. I find it a blessing that if there's any actor I could go, oh, him, it's Robin Williams, because he is a perfect example of somebody who their whole life was like, look at what you can do for comedy. You're so good at it. Just stay in your lane. Do comedy, which was what a lot of people were telling me. Because, like, before I finally filled out, got a little bit of muscle, got some stubble, I was a really geeky kid.
Yeah.
And people were like, don't try the leading roles because there's
You're
someone,
not
someone
gonna
who's
do it.
more handsome for sure. Just stick with your, like, funny roles. And he was somebody that, sure, he wasn't Mr. Handsome. I think he was a rugged guy. He was okay. But everyone was trying to say, stick to your comedy. And he would do these roles that were dramatic, that
So
some
he had
people were like, it's
two
great.
contracts.
He had so much life in him. He had to do both. And for
He
me,
needed to.
I just I wouldn't paint myself as somebody that's so interesting, so like whatever words I could use, and I haven't seen anywhere near as much life as for you. Like hearing that you went through what you've gone through and it's brought you to here, I never had to do that. But I had a different life, which was where I grew up was so underwhelming. Like Iowa, there's great people and we're all next to each other, or sometimes very spaced apart by like we live far away because there's just like all this open space, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love each other, but we have a good thing going in a world that's like has so much strife. So do we dare try a big adventure somewhere else, or do we stick to what we know? And I don't blame either party for doing either. But I just knew, okay, I don't have strife. I don't have so much bad stuff I'm escaping. But goddamn if I don't love this place.
Yes.
And it's funny. It's really funny, but it's overwhelming. I have to be able to express that. And I know a lot of people claim that, you know, some comedians can do the best dramatic, you know, pieces. Then why don't you let them do it more? Mm-hmm. It's because there's something you're not comfortable with watching a comedian do dramatic. And that's what I was sort of feeling was like, everyone's always wanted me to do one thing, and I'm like, I'm trying to do as many things
because you refer to Adam Sandler, to William Ferrell, which these are actors that not only have been a huge part of the entertainment industry, but they have this skill, which I believe to my perspective as a skill, is that yes, they can be extremely funny in comics, or they can also pull their shit together to put such a big roles, whether it's action, whether it's drama, whether it's everything combined. I see you as that, but how do you really show people that you can be all of this and not just be the little geeky guy that is funny in comic? How do you deal with that?
Well, it's interesting because there's the comedian route. You're almost never sincere. You're making a joke
about everything.
The dramatic route, you're trying to be sincere in this like fake story that you're telling. You're trying to be the most real thing about that fake story. And so for me, it was just like, I don't want to make a joke about everything. I love when a joke happens spontaneously. I haven't quite told a joke at any point in this whole interview because I love sincerely talking about things. Because
like, you love when things happen the way they're supposed to happen. Like, you don't want to just be funny. Like, what's the point of being funny just to be funny? Like, be funny if the moment allows it. Be sincere and open if the moment allows it as well. So that's something that I admire, because honestly, by me opening up the interview by being afraid of messing up your name, I was expecting almost right away out the back a joke to coming into play, and I was like, wait a second, I was not expecting this. So the fact that you're able to pull that, it speaks a lot. So how's this for you to act? Like, how do the casting directors, because I'm aware you did a casting for the casting director of Oppenheimer, how do you think, first of all, how do you think they see you by being able to portray such many different emotions? Because, I mean, you have the problem like, he's funny, but so they are. Or he's dramatic, so they are. Or he's handsome, so all of the guys right over there are as well. So how do you deal with that when the casting director casts you?
I think the biggest thing that you can do is don't get tied up in. I think one of the most damaging thing that a lot of acting instructors say is acting is making a choice. Because I remember one of my instructors saying that, and maybe they meant it in a different way, and maybe I'll hear it again and feel differently down the road. But for the moment, the reason why I feel like that is such a kind of damaging thing is everyone acts like they got to make all these different choices, and it starts to get into this layer cake that the casting director didn't ask for. They are clearly asking for what they want. So I think,
and your job is to deliver.
And your job is to deliver, but I would also say they want to be surprised a little bit. So you have to be relaxed the whole time.
What do you consider? You have to be yourself.
You have to be yourself, but I feel like it's so overused.
It's a thin line. It's a fine line.
That almost has lost its meaning because of how many people have said be yourself. I think you have to work on getting relaxed, focused on what it is that they said. Have that come through along with in the process of it coming through, any inspiration that comes out too. Like I would say if I'm good at anything in a scene, whether it's commercial, whether it's a print ad that I just did, it is they have a concept of what they want. I execute everything on their checklist, and then I go, can I play like a little bit? And sometimes I might even ask a little earlier, can I play to get into it? And then for sure I'm going to deliver. They'll be like, I only do that if I've sort of worked up to earning that with them. I would never do that out the gate. But I have had so many people who write a scene. They're like, I don't know why it's not working. And I'm like, can I throw in something? And I'll improvise a line or two. I never overdo it. I used to overdo it all the time when I was younger.
You can't overdo it.
No,
at the same time, that's gonna screw you up.
When I was younger, I was in a production of Grease that I just like went off script, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is this kid doing?" He is not Danny Zuko.
Yeah.
He's literally the nerd. Like, he can't go on a tear of improvising for 5 minutes. I like hijacked a play. Granted, I was like,
You grab everything and you hijack.
I was like 14 years old, and like seniors that are like, "What the fuck is this kid doing?"
It's like, can you stick to your lines?
But then I realized, like, oh, that doesn't make people like me
More.
and like that's like people are like, this guy's an asshole.
It's
so
a
I'm glad I
fine
learned
balance.
that. I learned that at 14 and not at like.
Thank God you learned that early on.
Like I think it's a helpful thing sometimes for me to go, because I'm 34 and like there's so many people that packed it in that I knew that came out with me same age, packed it in at like 24. You know, because they were just like, I don't know, man. This is just like,
so they
and
just
I'm like,
their things and left. And
yeah, and I'm like, this is the dream. Like this was your dream. Like I'm actually flabbergasted when they initially tell me, because I'm like, this was your dream. Like you fold at like 2 years in, but I think it's because they were honest with themselves, and they were like, this actually isn't my dream. And as much as that's sad, I'm glad they came to that conclusion when they did. But for me, it is the dream, and in a weird way, like I could look at my situation now and just be like, this isn't what I wanted. Like I wanted so much more, and I wanted it sooner. But I think about, had I gotten a little bit more success sooner, I for sure would have ended up like Shia LaBeouf. And I say that as no insult to the man. You know?
Of course.
I think about the era of like 2000s Disney. If I've gotten chewed up in that system, it's a blessing that it has taken me this long. It's a blessing that I had.
It's taking you the proper time to get to where it actually,
where I can actually like handle it.
You didn't allow the industry just to swallow you in and build you.
Well, and also I wasn't quite talented enough
at that point.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm okay saying that. I was just not talented enough to escape,
which not a lot of people are.
Which is in a way dodging a bullet, right?
Yeah.
But I had to work to get better. I had to like learn accents, like, you know, a commercial agent that's like, yeah, like let's start getting good at like Scandinavian accents, and I'm like, okay, why? And it's like, because we want you we want you to hit any market that you possibly could. You're white, like let's test all of what you could be, type of thing. And I'm just like, all right, like that's a skill set I got. So I'd get good at accents. I've always loved dancing. Like I haven't been disciplined enough to do like a form or anything like that. I could see that happening, but like when I vision, like if I got just a little bit more success in the head, let's say the day job melts away, I could see myself becoming a Renaissance man, just because now I don't have the day job. I have the time to take dance. The time to, I would learn a language.
Now you have
like,
the time
I would love to
invest
come
that
to you. Right
want.
now, yo entiendo solo poco español.
Okay.
Okay. So that
was really good.
Thank you. I know enough to get that far, right? But I would love it if, like, at some point, you know, this is me not knowing, but if it's safe, and if we went to Colombia and we were doing press somewhere, if I could speak to the audience in Spanish, because now I don't have to work a job, I can take Spanish lessons.
Your time into
That's what I would love to do. I don't give a fuck about cars. My dad was a car guy. I saw how hard that was for him to have this precious thing. He was always worried something could happen. I don't care about jewelry. I don't care about any of this. I don't care about fame. I want to work with as many people as I can. I'd love to be in a Colombian film. I'd love to be in a South Korean film.
You're being true to yourself. Like, you're not lying to yourself of like, I want to be an actor because I love the art. Yeah. And you're fooling or pretending to for yourself that you're being an actor just for the art, but truthfully, you just want the fame. You just want the clout. You just want the money, or you just want the luxury. You're being true to yourself, and you're doing it because, number one, you truly enjoy it. Number two, it is your passion. And three is what drives you.
Yeah. And the only thing I might amend about that, just because I think it is inevitable that an actor in this day and age, and probably honestly every decade, you have to get somewhat good with money, or care a little bit more about money than you do when you start out on the journey. But not make it your driving thing. Because for me, when I was a kid and looking at it through the lens of a kid, I would ask, you know, what's going on that these people get to do this thing? It's like, oh, well, they're professional actors. What? These people, this is their jobs? Like,
This is what they do?
I'm asking hyper detailed questions like when I'm a kid, like, so where's this happening? How can we go there? And my parents being like, well, it's going to be a while before we can go to Hollywood. And also, we don't know that we want to take you there. So I'm just like building up and going like, I want to do this thing. But it was always like, you mean you can get paid to do this thing? And you can like earn a living from it. And for me, that was always a measure of, if I can clear that bar, I'm set. That's truly all I want. And it became this thing of like, I moved out here. I was a hippie. Like, I was out of college and just sort of like, I don't care about money, man. And just like setting myself up for failure. But the second a switch flipped and I went, okay, these films are trying to hire me for $0. And like playing on my passion and everything like that. These films are gonna pay me $150. Okay, let's see what these $150 films are about. So I get paid $150 on the day or $100 on the day, and I'd be like, huh, it's not much. And actually, I probably would have made more at a day job.
Yeah.
But I feel like I just took a step towards being a professional actor.
You're getting closer to your goal.
I'm getting closer. And then what ended up happening is I stayed in it long enough. I didn't fold that some people would be like, hey, people who didn't have a project for me when I met them. And they're like, sorry, man, I wish I could just slide
help you
into
or
it,
bring you in.
but I can't. I don't have anything at the moment. And 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, they're like, hey, I have something now. Are you still acting? That turns into, hey, I finally have something now. I'm seeing that you're killing it. But some people fold early. They don't get to see that happen, right? And so for me, there's just been a progression of, it was $0. It was $150 on the day. I pushed it to say $200. And then I started getting projects that I was like, I'm actually not interested in that. And I would be like, I feel bad. I don't want to just say like the project just doesn't interest me. So I made up an excuse of like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like at a new point in my career where I can't accept that rate. And so I would need 600. And they're like, that's fine. And I'm like, what?
You're like, you cool with this?
Yeah, I'm like, triple? Okay, I guess
you're like,
and so
like, sure.
I was like, okay. But it wasn't because suddenly now money. It wasn't. I wasn't driven by money. It was more that I was like, wait a minute. I'm finding out my value here, and I'm realizing I've been underselling myself quite a bit. And so you start to play this dance of like, where do I sit? Is there an industry standard?
Like, where do I sit within these standards?
Yeah, what's this like sort of tier structure that's going on here? And then that becomes me going, oh, well, agents and managers, which we haven't even talked about yet, but like so much of my career up into this point has been me submitting myself with my materials that my brother-in-law or my best friend or somebody's taken for me, or over the years I've collected the footage and really just been diligent about, hey, man.
Yeah, like speaking of the content, you made a famous YouTube short.
So famous is not the word I would use. What I would say is it did okay back home in Iowa. And it was like one YouTube video I did in a sea of like otherwise content that didn't do okay. So it was just a video that I made that the title of it is When I Say I'm From Iowa in Los Angeles. And I put it out. It was like the fourth in a sequence of like things that I made, and I just like uploaded it in the morning, and I didn't think it was gonna do anything. And by today's numbers and metrics, it's still not high numbers, but it's like something that I did that tapped in for a moment to people back home in Iowa.
I mean, that's big enough. Like the fact that you're
I'm being told by people, they played clips from it on the local radio stations back home. And it's like, huh, that's cool. That's
interesting. I'm flattered.
Yeah. And so I was like, cool, I made something that made people happy for a little bit. And yet there's still times where there's like a spike on YouTube of people are just waking up to it. And But yeah, we kind of talked about it earlier of like a lot of people came to me and like, that's what you do. That's your way in. That's how you do it. And I'm like, guys, I'm 6 years into living in LA. I bleed Iowa. Like I am an Iowan for sure, but I don't live there yet. And I'm sat here thinking I have a finger on the pulse of what it's like to be back home. I'm finding out candidates I think have a shoe-in of getting elected don't, because I'm only listening to people back home. I'm not listening to the whole state. And so I start to feel uncomfortable with like people being like, be that guy from Iowa, be that guy, make that content for us. And like there's a part of me that's like, I am so desperate to make that, but I want to make a film.
But at the same time,
like I want it to be
doing the opposite from that is what got you to the point that you are.
Yeah. Of like I'm taking Iowa with me to this place that either they don't give a fuck about Iowa, or they think they understand. They don't. They don't. And so I'm here to be like, I want to introduce you to home. And I want to introduce you to what it's like. And I think honestly, what drove me for so long is I was annoyed that not more Iowans had made it in Iowa. Like annoyed or like just like unsettled. It was
just like that.
It was like, how are there so many people from New York or Jersey or like all these places, but we've got only a few. And I'm like,
would you say you can count them on one hand?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty close, right? And but I'm like, but we're some of the most human people you're gonna meet. And the thing I'm proudest about back home is how many people the first thing they say if they don't say either corn or potatoes, they're like, you guys are really nice people, and I agree. And it's because we do care about people so much. So I just want to bring that to Hollywood, and you know, it gets. The other thing I'd say is like it gets labeled a sick place, Hollywood. Oh, yeah. And there is sick things in the industry, and again, I haven't gone so deep or so high, however you want to look at it, that I've encountered the worst of that. But I've gone to casting auditions where they like set it up like it's going to be a comedic audition, and then they're like, now we've come to the disrobing portion, and I'm like, now I've come to the portion where I leave out the front door because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but that was before Me Too. So I am thankful that the current moment, there's enough people that are scared about the repercussions that could happen to them, that they're not as flagrant as they were. The whole thing still needs to get better. There needs to be way more just focus on the work, you know what I mean? Like stop doing gross stuff. You know what I mean? It's just there's some people that toe the line. They like this like cavalier like stuff, and I feel fortunate. I surround myself with so many people that just work hard, that I feel like that is the side of Hollywood I'm proud of. How many people are here working their fucking ass off? Yes, if we want to keep paying Hollywood as like
a sick place,
just a sick place where there's producers like, yes, scrutinize them when you have evidence that they've done wrong. Otherwise, these people fucking kill themselves over, literally and metaphorically, sadly, so that you're entertained.
Exactly. It's not. Speaking of like you caring about people, this industry is tough. I'm not gonna say it's a sick place because it's not. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have situations like the P. Diddy situation, which is gross. I'm not even gonna tap into that, but you also have the other end of like people like yourself, like that we care about the art, we care about the story. So how it is for you to have a stable relationship as an actor in Hollywood? How does it play out for you?
I mean, I think for me, it's just I'm grateful that I'm now at this place where my strengths get seen. My strengths really get seen. And if it's either in the product itself, but it's also being seen by the people on set, and it's being seen in these communities that like the last 3 jobs I've had that have paid me well have been because I've been asked back, because we're having I did the final product with them, and they asked me for their next job, and then they asked me for the next job, because
So they brought you back into the whole thing.
Yeah, because we're having fun and we're focused and no one's being an asshole. And so
you as a person.
my strengths are coming out. I'm finally in the context that all this makes sense. But what I'm learning now, and like last night was an example of this. I'm sat here in like some pretty smartly dressed. You are too. I only just got a service job at 34 because I was fighting so hard to not work as a server. Fighting so hard because it's a cliche and I wanted to stay away from cliches. Come to find out, it's a little bit of a cliche for a reason because this feeds people, right? So for me, like
it's a safe, secure income.
Yeah, and you have. I mean, but it stresses you the fuck out.
It eats you from the inside up.
I'm thinking of how physically tired I am, how drained my social battery is, and how much I could. And at younger points in my life, I look at that and go, like I'm cursed. Like I just look at it as I'm being punished. Like this is hell. I'm so close to what I want, but I can't have it. And so like it was just a negative viewpoint, and I'm only just now getting that all of this, the being so tired that I can't wake up to work out, to be like in
good shape.
When I do it, I get a fuck yeah moment. When I am so swamped with auditions and work and chores, but I make time for my girlfriend, that's a fuck yeah moment. When I am so busy with 10 things I need to do, but in my car I think, oh, I have to call mom and dad, that's a fuck yeah.
I feel that you're this type of like a person that, at least for your girlfriend, and I would say for your parents too, of like for your parents, I would say you're the son of that you give your parents the bragging right. They can brag about the good son they have.
Yeah.
And likewise for your girlfriend. I feel that she has a boyfriend that she could be like, you know what? I have bragging right. And I fucking love that.
I would have to have them here. I think they might say something like that. I think they do. But yeah, I there is the positive side of that. And then I wouldn't say that with my girlfriend, but I think it's important to highlight. I mean, you were setting me up for a lighter moment, but I'm focused on both the light and what is heavier. You know,
which is admirable.
Thank you. I have so much support from my parents. I wouldn't be here had they, because the thing about Iowa is like there's so many people that will be at your back and like want to see you succeed, but the risk of it, they worry about you too. And so I can remember, my parents just starting to get a little worried about like, I don't know, can he do it? And then now I'm starting to feel like I'm not just failing me, I'm failing them.
Okay.
So on days where like I'm getting support from my parents, it's like, oh, this feels so great.
It's like comfort zone.
Yeah, but there's times where it's a double-edged sort of like, if I don't succeed, I'm also not succeeding.
But I don't personally think that they feel like that about you.
And they would be the first to tell me. It's just, again, my caring for people sometimes fights against me because of how much I want to succeed for them. I'm making it more constrictive for myself. And why I feel like in platforms like it's so important is I'm not alone. There's so many actors, especially coming from where I'm from, but also on the coast in the South, who have to feel the same way. Especially if I'm a generation of actor, one of the things that made me start to finally feel like I could maybe be a professional actor was finally I was going to college for acting at the University of Iowa. There's going to be a whole sea of actors who went, instead of the like getting discovered at like pageants or whatever the 90s did.
Yeah.
There's a whole collegiate level of actors that like, went to a university somewhere and were told things by a university professor. However much percentage of that helped them, there's like a bit that they have to like fight against because like it's the Wild West. Like there's the collegiate style and there's the business style, and you're not always taught that. And with my parents, like, they made sure I went to college for precisely what I wanted to do, because I didn't get to do that. Now I got to see if I can make that work. So that is, again, I've done a lot of internal work. I don't feel anywhere near as stressed. Why? Because on today's like today, where I have 2 self-tapes that I did before coming here and an in-person audition where I bumped into somebody I'd done a play with, I'm living my life. I'm living the life I wanted. It's just on the smaller scale that I saw for myself. So if it is this, I'm okay. And I stutter saying that just because there will be a part of me that always wants to see it just a little bigger. And I think that'll be the last thing, is when I hit that sweet spot, that's where I go, I'm good here.
You're like, I'm happy. You feel achieved and accomplished.
Yeah. Because I do think there's something slightly, if not moderately bigger in store for me. And I think that last test will be, you have it. Now can you both hold on to it, and can you fight whatever urge that remains to try and get more?
Have you ever had the thought cross your mind of quitting?
I was probably in the darkest spot of my life during the last strikes that happened, because I realized I had been this unstoppable force in my mind that was headed towards an immovable object. That was the current state of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stopping. So am I about to implode? I've come as close as I can to being like, maybe I should pivot.
You get yourself to that point because you want to, or because it drives you, like the situations drive you to that point.
But it was
I'm gonna persist.
It was me going, is this pride? And am I actually meeting circumstances that this doesn't service my life anymore? Because that period of the strikes,
it was a period of uncertainty for everybody.
It was testing everybody. And it was in the midst of this slog of...
It was filtering everybody out.
Economically, everyone's unhappy. So just this like veil of unhappiness, but to have it happen in such our area of production way, there was a point where I had to check my own pride and go, is this where I realize this life isn't making me happy anymore? And I made a deal with myself and just said, get past this. Get past this moment.
This great moment.
This moment. Help yourself through this. And if you get slammed again by a COVID or a strike or something, and you feel this way again, then sure. You have pushed yourself to the point of exhausted spiritually, total exhaustion. But there's something right here that says, I am not being cursed. I'm being gifted a moment where my parents are worried and can't hide it anymore. My peers are gone that I started out with. I made new ones, but even the ones that I'm with, shoulder to shoulder with, are looking at me like, this is
what is going on?
Yeah. I was essentially deconstructed to, can Derrick just help himself through this moment and not doubt himself? And when I'm sat there being like, God, like, please, if there's any time I need help, it's right now. It's like, this strike sucks. To be denied the help and have to help yourself was a gift. It was a gift. It was a gift. Because I did it. Like, I helped myself. And now I'm sat here with you, and I'm suffering from, my agent is getting me so many auditions.
You have
I'm now a different type of curse, which is like, he's sending me out on so many things, and I'm like, and it's another thing that I'm sure my peers are like, now that self-tapes are a thing, they're like, do this one today, do this one today, do this one today, and it's great, but it's a grind. And I just, anyone who's in that, like, we're here, we're close, don't lose your mind. You have the opportunity that so many people wish they had, which is an agent that's working for them. Don't lose sight. You're close. Keep going.
Just trust yourself.
Yeah, trust yourself.
Don't lose
trust
faith.
the people around you. Trust that even when you're being denied by a higher power,
and by everything around you,
it is for you to step up and go, actually, there's times in my life where I've quit on this circumstance because of how important it is. I'm not quitting. I'm not here. Like, that was a gift that I had. Wow. So the next gift, I don't know how it's going to come, but I hope the culmination of all this leads somewhere. I hope it does. And I hope it leads.
I'm sure it will.
I hope it leads where it was aiming, because I respect every single person that pivots, that like really goes sincerely at something and pivots. And it could be the case that that's in store for me, but I'd like to see an aim that was set so early on be accomplished.
I know you will be accomplished. And
Thank you.
I'm rooting for you because I know how hard it is.
Thank you.
And I know you're going to get there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for not only one opening up with such incredible story from childhood, from politics, from an actor, from your breaking point, from breaking through. This is awesome. All the incredible conversation we've had today. So thank you for allowing me to tap into your world for a second and allowing everybody out there right here, right there to show your story that it's all about your mental health and about your mindset. You can do it if you really want to do it. So I thank you for this. I have no way to thank you for
I have to say thank you too, because I mean, we talked about it when we sat down. We just live in a sea of content right now, and I think there's a lot of people that are just focused on like, how can I distract, or how can I go for the lowest hanging fruit, and to go like, I want to make content where people are vulnerable, where they can be sincere in a time that's increasingly insincere and trying to hide like what they don't want to be attacked, because there's so many people that are ready to attack.
Everybody.
To build a space where people can be vulnerable. I'm just truly grateful, and I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, everybody, before we wrap up, something I like to ask is, what was your favorite day on set, and what advice to people would you love to give to be a person like you, just to chase their dreams?
My favorite day on set. I have to go through the Rolodex here of like my favorite day on set. You know, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you this. So one of my favorite days on set happened just this past summer. I was in a film. It's a new sort of medium that they're doing now, where they'll make a full film and they'll like chop up the story into little bits, because we live in this tech age, right? It was called The Forgotten Princess, and it's a ridiculous story. It's ridiculous. It's like, it's soap opera. It's fine. It's whatever. But also at the same time, it was kind of cool. It was not. It had some great stuff going and some really good shots, and the director Gabe was very chill. And I noticed something after his first email to me came through. I went back to my inbox to check the email again, and I saw another email from 10 years ago that I had sent to him that was saying, "So good to meet you. I think you are so talented, both in front of and behind the camera, and I can't wait for the opportunity for us to work together." I checked the date on his email to tell me that I was a part of that production. It was almost 10 years to the day.
Wow.
And so when I was on set in this thing that's a ridiculous thing, and there's some people who are taking it way too seriously. There's some who get it, and we're all having fun, and it's great. just this hodgepodge of like all these different energies, right? And I just finally get a moment in an otherwise grind of getting that script out to just share with him like, hey, this is pretty cool. I said I was going to work with you, and I got the opportunity to, and his mind was just blown. And I think the two of us kind of reflected on what we were and where we were at now, and a sort of understanding that, oh yeah, we were those guys that
we were there,
had no reason to really succeed, that people today would look at our project and maybe think like, is that success? But we're here, we're enjoying ourselves, we're working, we have something to show from it. And it was taking place, there's like a castle, the Hollywood castle.
Yes.
Or hang on, no, it's not the Magic Castle. It's like the Hollywood castle that overlooks like sort of like Dodgers and like downtown. And like we're watching for 4 nights, just the sunset. We're in Hollywood and we're making something. And again, who cares on what the product was, but we were there.
And you guys were doing it.
And we got to meet as like, you know, guys in their 30s. Yeah, that was just like a full circle moment. So like, yeah, it's not a performance I gave that I really like hit it. It's those quiet moments on set in the midst of chaos, like a moment where I had to sneak in.
Of true joy.
Yeah.
And that was it. And what would you like to share to people to not pivot around and just continue chasing?
I would just say, like, you have an inner voice going, you have an external voice of the times. And when you can find harmony between what you're feeling, like right here, meeting some aspect of this enormous world, and there is some harmony, just go after it. And don't look at what's difficult as a curse. It's a blessing. It's just coming in a completely different disguise. And whether that is tech or politics or anything, like this is not just, you know, acting. This is like true life. You'll find your harmony in the internal and external, and your curses are not actually curses, but blessings in disguise.
Incredible. Well, you all heard it coming from an actor in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So just follow your dreams and never quit. Trust yourself on what you're doing. You're going to get there. Just a matter of believing in yourself and truthfully sticking to your gods and listening to your true self. So thank you for coming. Thank you all for watching. And hopefully I can have you back here when you get your first huge big role as an A-lister actor.
That'd be awesome.
So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And everybody at home, thank you for watching.